Righty-ho.
And here we are,
Hey, guys.
podcasters. We're now live on Facebook.
We're early.
Hello, we are.
Yeah, you got to get to
So I gotta
Brisbane, so
I got
we're
a
early.
very important weekend this weekend.
Yes, you have. I'm just going to move that because that
Young-
sky's really glary.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Young Tobias Linnegini turns 21. Well, he's already turned 21.
Oh, you're going to a 21st. Doesn't it make you feel old?
Oh, I know. No,
It's
it
a
actually
massive weekend.
makes me feel good because I've kept him alive this long.
Oh.
Go, Dad. It's
You
a
know
proud
what's on
dad
for
moment.
us this weekend?
Talk me through it.
My beautiful daughter and her
Yeah.
fiance's engagement party tomorrow
Oh,
night, so we've got a big family
You're
weekend.
going to get sloshed?
Oh, I don't think so. We've got
Why?
180 people coming.
Holy shit. Are they all staying at your place?
No.
You got no? brothers?
Jack, Sarah's fiance, Jack, his mum's got 33 staying at their house.
33.
They've got
people.
caravans and tents and everything they're setting up in her
Yes.
yard. So,
Hey, look at this. Anita,
Yeah.
Pat Laws,
hey,
Alison Randall,
Sunita.
Simon
Pat.
Owens, Wayne Dillon, Jennifer McGuire.
Oh, Jen, how's the hookup preparations
Hope it's
going?
going
It's
good.
coming around fast.
And Paul Weshy. I hope that's how you say your last name. I probably
Actually,
should know.
Jen, there's a meeting on for I think business owners in Boyne-Tanham about the hookup this week. If you want to give it a plug, Jen, I was just speaking with someone at the future business breakfast this week about that. So
Pat Laws, enjoy your weekend, you two. We are on that, Pat. I'll be sloshed.
you enjoy
right?
Are you going
Right
fishing,
way.
Pat? Surely there's some fishing in there somewhere.
Catch barrel all over the place like a banshee.
Yes.
Prep is going perfectly.
Oh, that's great. So
Couldn't be
when's
any
the meeting? It's this next week, I think, Wednesday night or something at the Heron Room. If you want to give it a plug, Jen. I think they're talking about getting businesses involved in the hookup this year.
Yeah,
So
really?
Jen,
How do you do that?
the
Sponsorship.
the hookup committee is on fire this year. Loving the TV ads. It's fantastic.
No fishing.
No
for Pat.
fishing.
Shani
Oh,
Dickens.
No. Hey, Shani.
She's the most beautiful girl we know,
Hey, Shani.
apart from Jules and you, of course. Yes. Shani, I was away with Shani at some personal development last week.
Yeah.
Just talking about relationships.
Just going to move that mouse because it's sitting over the end video button. So.
Yeah, click. So Shani was away and we were doing a lot of relationship work. So it was interesting to hear how we can actually communicate better as lovers and intimate partners. So we all learn a bit.
Yeah, we've had some really great
Great
feedback on our relationship.
Haven't we?
Yeah, and especially last week, the one about the kids, even though we had a lot of technical issues, that was a bit hard. But no, we need to get John Sorotti back on to talk
He was
about
good,
kids.
eh?
He's fantastic.
He was off tap good,
Like
man.
Brian.
Brian's Molly. Brian usually sits over there. I actually
Dale and Brad,
pocket dialed
Brady.
him. So,
What did you-
so we got Matt coming. You collect a lot of stuff on the Gladstone region.
Yeah, I do. So I was just telling Anton, because obviously I own a real estate agency and we like to keep our clients updated on what's happening around the area. So I've got a little file in my office, just printing off all the, if any media releases, Observer articles, anything that's released by any industry around town or projects. And we save it to a file on our server so that we can email our clients updates on things that are happening around the area. There is so much. I have a massive list of things to ask Matt about today. So
We're going to Phillip Island.
oh, hey. Oh, Phillip. I'd love to go to Phillip Island.
Sarah
Oh, Sarah.
Waters.
Oh, that's my beautiful
Oh, I
daughter.
know.
Her engagement
And Mark
party
West,
tomorrow.
Happy
And
engagement,
Jack's.
Sarah.
And Jack. I keep saying
And
my daughter's
Jack.
engagement party, but
And
Jack and Sarah's
He's
engagement.
part of this as well.
So they've been dating. Yeah, they've been dating since grade 9. I had a bit of a break for
Holy
about a
shit,
year,
did
but
they?
yeah, they're high
Isn't that
school
beautiful?
sweethearts, and they're
That's so
beautiful
beautiful.
family.
Isn't that lovely?
Beautiful big family. We've got we've all got big families, so we got a lot of people coming to this engagement party.
180.
Donna
Hello,
Ellis. I caught up with Donna on the at the Women Connecting Women event that Anton hosted this week,
I know.
which was
Actually, let's talk about that. Talk about Gladstone stuff.
Yes.
That is, I've got to tell you, that was the highlight of my week.
It's a really,
women.
really, really great group.
That's so beautiful.
Honestly, Women Connecting Women, like the Facebook page, guys. If you're interested, and you don't have to be a business person to be
That's
involved. And thank you so much for hosting.
Oh,
us.
don't be silly.
It was great to get more of an insight. I'm loving my new
Is that a TGG
Guinea
one?
group. Yeah.
It is too. Oh, they're the new one.
Anton gave us a Guinea group
Group
pen,
pen.
and I'm telling you, it's the best pen I've ever had.
I know.
They are brilliant. I have
Oh.
to find out where you got them from.
I know. Ask Alison, she'll know.
And USB, I got
Yes.
a Guinea Group
Oh,
USB, and Anton was very generous and
Thank
gave
you.
us all some of his books that you've written. So
Always give stuff away, eh, Ross? You've got to give stuff away.
I can't believe my daughter's engaged, Jen. They're getting married next year, so they're growing up fast.
So,
How's Harry going, Jen, by the way? Harry, how's
Harry.
he going?
Can I throw something out there?
Go for it.
So, it was funny at the Women Connecting Women. I was surprised to hear one comment made, and not in a good or a bad way.
Yeah.
It was just like there's just what is.
Yeah.
And I must be very naive male, am I?
I think, well, it depends. Naive in what way? Because a lot of men obviously don't know what we all do when we get together and catch up.
No, what I mean is, and I made the comment there that other night, that one of the women there, when she was talking about what she did, she was very proud to be the first woman to, be in a leadership role in this particular business, which I think is outstanding.
Yeah. That would be Jess, who's now the new chair of Women Connecting Women. So
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, Jess is the first woman in the world to actually run the
leadership position.
It's for Mission to Seafarers.
Mission to Seafarers.
Actually, one of the lives I did on our page was with Jess out at the Mission to Seafarers, and it's amazing what they do out there. I had no idea. I had no idea how many people came through there.
Harry's back to normal.
That's wonderful. Oh, that's wonderful news, Jen.
How to break your neck and come back in 12 months? 12 months?
Yeah, Harry's been through a lot, and I'm really glad to hear he's doing well.
So
that's fantastic.
Isn't it great? And Brad Huth and Anne Zahn. So I just want to throw it out there because one of the comments that was made.
Yeah, what were you naive about?
About women's struggles in the workplace. Because one lady made a comment just about, the struggles that we have being women at work. And I like, to me, that was surprising because I don't sort of see that. And then I made the comment that I was surprised, and I said, we only have women in our business. TGG only has women.
Do. Yeah.
And I did make the comment that that's not by accident. That's a deliberate point.
My God, that the women that you have work for you, they just keep everything running amazingly.
Absolutely.
It was so lovely to meet everybody. Well, I didn't know them, but it was so lovely to catch up with them and hear what their roles are and how much they do for you.
Absolutely, that's right.
Organised and grateful. Organised. They've got everything. Ticking like clockwork. Hey, Tony.
And they don't only manage me.
I've got to get my insurance back to Tony.
Tony fixed up mine again today.
Yeah, I've got to get my contents insurance updated.
So before Matt gets here,
just
for someone who is naive in this, like I know you're not in industry or in business anymore, you're running your own business now. So what's going on with women in business? To me, like, we haven't got this whole gender equality thing, or do we have?
Look, I think we've come a long way. I obviously deal with a lot of people who work in businesses and industry, and I've got a lot of friends who've worked in industry, and some of them for a very long time. I think we have come a long way, but we've got a whole long way to go. Long way to go. Right. I mean, with pay. I see you, Jan.
I'll see you. Love. Check you again.
Sports mum. She's a sports mum.
Yeah.
So with obviously pay equality. What just dinged? Oh, pay equality. And obviously, the ability for a woman to to work her way up the ladder in
so there's still this glass ceiling thing.
There is, and I mean it's actually in my industry something really very historical happened last year. The REIQ actually changed their rules that they had to have at least one woman on the board and one person under 30.
Wow.
So they've actually, there's a lot of industries where they're starting to actually, like the government, they did that as well in Parliament, didn't they?
Having a quota.
Yeah, so they've actually got more even demographic as far, well, not even. It's going to be a long time before it's even, but and how? I mean, seriously, with what happened in New Zealand last week,
I was thinking exactly the same thing. How
female prime minister, she is seriously unbelievable. Like honestly, and I have to say, Anna Bligh was like that in the flood. Remember the flood when the floods were on here?
Did Anna Bligh step up?
To actually the way they actually, women I think are really good at showing empathy and understand. It's a mother. I suppose it's a motherly thing. But when you actually see what New Zealand has been through with this and how she's handled that situation and how she's dealt with the victims' families and to see what a woman can bring to the table in a position of leadership.
Absolutely. And if you actually watch carefully and closely, you'll actually see some great languaging. Like she seems, whether she's trained or not, or whether she's just empathetic. It's very inclusive. It's very we. It's very us. Like it's bringing, she's bringing a whole country together. She's bringing probably a few nations together with her inclusivity.
Absolutely, and with the full respect for the culture and belief. She actually wore the burqa, and she to actually see the way she handled that situation.
Unbelievable.
Really unbelievable, honestly. And I think the more women, and we talked a lot about strong women last week,
because with that, all you were strong women.
Oh, and I think that's probably where you don't. I think with the situations you're in, because you're someone who goes into industry, you're not working with those like on an everyday basis with industry. The people that you actually work for when you go and talk to them. You only deal with strong, like you only do all the women around you are already they're strong, and you see that, so you probably don't see the struggles that women have. Hey Mark, they don't. You don't actually have you don't actually have that. You're not in that sort of situation where you see the struggle that women have in the industry. And
it's funny because we've got a woman on our board, and I tell her regularly that she's probably been my best client to work for ever. So, in 15 years of self-employment, there's this one person, and it happens to be a female. Just so nice, just pleasant, just friendly, direct, strong, just a pleasure to work, and I'd work for again in a heartbeat. Yeah,
and it's interesting that you've probably got a lot of women throughout your life that you've met that are very, strong
like yourself,
women. And, and we actually have...
We connect,
right? And I think... seeing women that are in your life achieve what they achieve, and all those women that were at the Women Connecting Women event the other day, they are. But in individual industry, there was people there that work from home. There's people there that are just they run a coffee shop, or they've changed business from business to business. Right. And we had Donna there telling us the story about buying, as a single mum, buying her own home, and like the amount of things that these women have achieved, which is great. I suppose my struggle with the gender equality thing has always been not even just in a workplace. I think, and a lot of this has come from my relationship coaching. Right. Learning about men and women. And John touched on it the other day when he was talking about the Industrial Revolution, where the guys had to come off the farms and work in the industry, and mum was stayed at home with the kids and everything. Yeah. I think there's we're going to have to go through this for a long time, working out, because you talk about sexual harassment.
You don't think we've found our place yet?
Well, I just think that it's really hard, even as an employer. Like, it's so difficult now because you grew up in a circumstance where. And we're seeing it with a lot of the celebrities coming out now saying that their producer, sexually harassed them or abused them, or
so wrong.
But I think there's, it's really hard to know that line. A lot of stuff can be confusing for guys. Yeah, how much can I do now, or what is acceptable? Exactly.
And I train people that the only safe place on a body to touch is the elbow.
Exactly.
Because it's a neutral zone. Whereas I know you, so I can sort of touch you on the back.
And I think there's going to be there's this real grey area where guys are confused. Even women as an employee are confused. I actually had a friend.
A teacher.
Well, I had a friend who's a female nurse who actually she lost her job for sexually harassing a doctor because she actually said something that was taken as inappropriate, and that's what she did. She touched him on the arm and said something that was deemed as inappropriate. She actually lost her job. They went to court and everything.
So wrong.
And
did she get her job back? Did she?
No, she didn't.
She was held.
Well, and that's where when you say something now, a lot of times, it can be taken. It can be taken a different way, or it can be.
And I've learned the hard way, because when you're public speaking, because there's 50 people in the room, it's very easy to offend someone.
Definitely.
And you've got to really, and like I've learned to, and I learned about personal space as a speaker, because I was getting in people's personal space, and I feel the energy, and you've got to be so. Aware, mindful. You do have to be mindful. Yeah. Please, Emily. And so I've learnt the hard way, and I'm pretty careful these days. Like, I'm pretty self-aware.
I have to be.
Can I just go back to?
You have to be careful.
You do. Oh, you do. And I've been in trouble. Like, I had a client one time who actually said, "Anton, no, we're not allowed to hug you." Okay, shit. Sorry. Do you know what I mean? So I'd rather people just tell me. I want to go back to something else, and so people say that. They get offended, and I love that. And if anyone on there ever gets offended or offends other people, which we tend to do occasionally, there's a real script that you can use to sort of talk through that. I'm very sorry, that was not my intent, because it was. It's not my intent to go out and offend people, whether it's male or female.
Yeah.
that won't happen again. Like, it's pretty easy. Just take responsibility.
It is, but I find, especially like I do this a lot at work, and I'm in a rush all the time. And you might say something, the tone that you use, or if you're in a rush and you don't sit and actually connect and get your message across clearly, especially with things nowadays like texting and emails. Absolutely. I just think it's very hard sometimes to say, and we have that with our clients all the time. And tenants, you've got to be very careful how you word something in writing, because when it's not spoken and there's no tone,
context,
and it can be really misconstrued.
Oh, absolutely.
And you can be easily taken the wrong way.
Out of context.
Yeah, definitely. So as far as the gender equality thing, and I just think it's going to be hard. We're trying to, that. Did you see the new Gillette video? That's been really controversial. Have you not seen that yet? About the teaching boys to grow up as, strong men. And have you not seen that? It's been all over the news. That there's a lot of controversy over it, as far as the way that the message that it's trying to get across. It's got Gillette apparently a huge amount of exposure, because everyone's talking about it.
Bad though, by the sounds of it.
Well, it's not. It's actually people arguing both sides of the story, because it's actually different scenes where someone gets bullied and someone's tackled, that boys are tackling and fighting on the grass, and the father comes over and says, "We don't treat each other that way," and
that sounds positive.
Yeah, so I took it as very positive. I actually thought it was extremely positive. Now, hang on, just going to break for 1 second. Kim and Tony Curd. So Kim and Tony own Candy Couture. They also own Signtech. They've been a massive help this week. So Candy Couture are doing the decorations for the engagement party tomorrow night. And guys, I tell you what, if you want to be like blown away, you wait till you see these balloon displays that they've done for the party. Wow. They've also been holding a lot of high teas in their little tea room out the back. So Kim's been doing an Alice in Wonderland theme, Mad Hatter's Tea Party. They've been holding them. So if you haven't been to Candy Couture, I can guarantee you it is not just a candy store. They have so many things. And they've also got, I think they're going to start doing an ice cream van with the Dippin' Dots, which is the little balls of ice cream. Kim and I have been talking this week. And Tony has been helping me with some signage at my office. So Signtech, they've been a really big help in both their businesses with me. And they've actually just been down to Aaron Sansoni's conference.
I'm going to it later.
Yeah, so Kim was telling me about it. They've joined his entrepreneur thing, and I think Kim's going over to WA next in a week or two for his big conference over there.
I'm not going to go over there for that.
So thanks for all your help this week, guys. Bit of a plug for them.
Can I come back to something?
Yes.
So I want to ask you this, and this is so I want to just get back to this women thing, because I think it's worth talking about, as you do.
That's the owner. He's deliberately doing it. He knows you're sitting here, moving the chairs.
Just too nice. So, if there's one thing that I get offended at, Candy Couture high tea is amazing and compares to both Tiffany's and Raffles. Good on you,
That's
girl.
Great plug, Lee.
That's a big rap.
And I totally agree. Their room is spectacular. The china they use is amazing. So, yes. Anyway, back to what you were saying.
I just want to say that, like, when I'm on LinkedIn, so do you know there's a lot of trolls on LinkedIn?
Oh, yeah.
LinkedIn is a bad place.
I'm not actually into LinkedIn.
No, I love LinkedIn. If you don't have to say much and you annoy people, you're really upset.
You know what I compare it to? Just a great big bowl of business cards.
Yes,
that's what I think LinkedIn is like. Because I get messages from people from...
That's right, from nowhere.
From trying to sell me their business, and I'm just like, that has nothing to do with what I even do.
So if I put a post up the other day and I said something about, a CEO that I was working with, and I used the word she, and I said, she said. And all of a sudden, I started getting comments about being sexist and being about...
what? Really?
And about, it's great that there's females. And I actually got quite...
This is what I'm talking about. You've got to be careful.
I know. And I love negative comments. And, I've been really, really badly abused on LinkedIn. And it just, it's just what I've done. And I love it.
Wow, you dove into the big bowl of business cards.
I did. I'll tell you the good way to really get abused, and I go out of the way to do this. Every time Adani puts a post up, I go, great work, well done.
Oh, I know, you told me that.
Just see who's
hey, Harry.
And they say, you're an arsehole, and you're this, and really mean, nasty. Anyway, just coming back to this one about this she CEO. And so there's a couple of really females who are right into the gender equality. Why were
they offended? Because you said she.
Yeah, because I had. Yeah, that's what I thought. I didn't even see. I don't get it a second. I'm just talking about someone. Yeah. and I got quite offended because I thought,
tiptoe.
why should I have to worry about the gender
Hey,
of someone that
Butchie.
I'm working with?
Yeah.
Hey, Butchie, you'll see Matt soon. So I was a bit put out, and I let it go. I just said, as I always do, thanks for the gift of feedback. Appreciate your comment.
See, that's what I'm saying though. It's so touchy because
It is.
you know
Why
what?
is it so touchy?
Can I tell you? Every time I send out a staff email to my ladies in the office, I struggle with that because
Who goes
if
first?
I'm talking to them, I say,
Yeah.
"Hey, girls." But if I'm emailing, it's like, is it acceptable for me to say, girl, like, do I have to say, hey, everyone, hey, girls, hey, ladies, or
hey, all, or team.
hey, everyone?
Yeah. What do you say?
Because I don't want to be impersonal, but you also have to be careful that you're not going to offend somebody. So
That's right.
it's really, really difficult to know how to, like, and that's
how to communicate.
Well, it is, but with our law, the laws regarding.
I'm getting closer. Sorry, girls. I'm on the edge of this.
The laws regarding, the property agents and not property agents, not that anymore. Here he is.
Oh, hello.
Hey,
Cheers,
it's Mr.
brother.
Burnett. We've been waiting for you.
Come on, bro.
Right on 4 o'clock.
I know.
Oh, good.
That's all right. I've got a list for you. Welcome. Where we'll go back to that later.
Mark
But
Adamson down at the
welcome
plant.
our special guest.
We've
We're
only-
going to shuffle you in.
shit.
Yeah. Or excuse the chairs. Oh, that's my sweat.
Yeah, why don't you sit in the middle, Matt?
Oh, hang on. Okay.
We'll put the rows in between two things.
Okay. Sorry, guys.
Now.
We're just reshuffling.
Sorry, Tom.
You should fit because John saw his fit the other day.
Right, that's it.
How are you?
Fantastic.
Hello, Matt.
See you.
Let me shorts.
Welcome.
How are you, brother?
I thought, are you going to the Women in Business Awards tonight?
Presenting some awards that tonight.
All right, awesome. So welcome to our Mayor Matt Burnett
Hey,
on a
Mayor
Friday
Boston.
afternoon. Thank you. You're like so on time.
Great of you giving up your time too.
That's
by the
all
way.
right.
Yeah, it is, thank you.
Locked me in last time.
Apparently,
on camera.
well, I
kept
went
your
to the
word.
Women Connecting Women event this week,
Which was a good
and we Anton hosted it this
yeah.
week, and we were talking about the lives that Anton and I do, and Desley O'Grady was there, and I said, join us on Friday because Matt's joining us, and she goes, how did you get Matt to join you? I've been trying to get a meeting with him for ages.
Des, sorry about that, Des. You're watching.
So yes.
Well, she
Give
doesn't
Maureen a
chicken.
call and she'll sort you out.
There you
So
go.
Matt, it's been an interesting week. So you were on the
Where to
panel at the
start?
Future
Was that Monday?
CQ breakfast on Wednesday.
Wednesday, I don't know, it's been a long week. What happened Monday? Monday was huge.
Observer and the CQ Uni hosted the Futures
Yeah, it did.
business breakfast, and Matt was on the panel
Yes.
with some other
With,
people around.
let's see who was next to me. We had
university,
Cole Tribe from Rosebery. We had
Yeah.
Patrick Hastings from Guild, and we had Owen Nevin from Central Queensland University.
Can we see Matt?
Yep, sure.
There we go.
If we push it back a bit,
bit.
and if we just push it towards Matt.
There we go.
Well, Monday was busy too.
So I have to say that I agree with you. The stats that came up about the growth of our area I don't believe were 100% accurate.
No.
I think we've had a lot more growth than what.
Well, you're a real estate agent. You know the market has changed.
I can tell you that we are seeing it on a daily basis. So obviously the amount of people that are moving to the area, and it's interesting when you talk to people who are in the mindset we've had for the last 6 years where the market's been falling, it's interesting how many people are not aware of what's going on around town. And to see how many people are moving here for work, they're moving from interstate because it's really affordable here now compared to a lot of the places that they're coming from. And everything that we're seeing is very positive. Like the confidence has increased to no end with businesses, people wanting to expand and open new businesses. And there's lots happening. I have a list.
Oh, is that list
This
of
is my
questions?
list. No, this is the projects I want to ask you about.
Fantastic. All right, here we go.
Well,
Well, I was at Squadnet this morning and just doing a live stream there. It's another local business that probably most people don't know what they do, but they support other businesses. And there's just so many businesses. When you have a look at, I know we've got enough petrol stations in town, but the new Shell opening on Dawson Highway near KFC, Shell don't invest in that kind of capital unless they can see a future, right?
that's right.
They do a lot of studies.
And I know we
Well,
got a lot of people say we got a lot of McDonald's in town, but let me tell you, McDonald's don't invest,
No.
and neither do Woolworths. So you have a look at towns and cities where Woolworths, Coles, Kmart are investing. Look at Coles and Kmart have just invested over
That
there.
expansion they did was amazing.
$5 million expansion for
Was that how
Kmart.
much it was?
Yeah, 5. I think it's
pretty,
5.
pretty
That's
epic.
It was at least 5.
Because they've
And-
actually taken over the old Target
Target, yeah.
building and expanded.
And that's not unique to Gladstone. Target and Kmart are one company, and they've done a market analysis that basically most towns you'll see if they've got both, they'll end up with one or the other.
Right.
Okay.
You have to be pretty big to get both, and they're going to probably end up blending and maybe fading Target away.
Right.
I'm not a Kmart expert, but or I'm not here to sell Kmart, but you just have to look at what they've gone into their homewares and all the rest of it. They're sort of going into what Target was really renowned for. So anyway.
And I think
Big
I heard
investment.
you say, you did a live from there
yeah.
when they opened. So they're
Looks
doing
a bit
that
like
across the country, but we're the first to get it.
Well,
So they're doing the first expansion in Australia, and they decided to do it in Gladstone. So that's got to tell you something.
Isn't it?
Yeah. So you spoke this week at the Futures event about what's happening in the area, and a lot of the questions I get from people, they hear bits and pieces, or it's Chinese whispers, and they hear that things are at different stages. So we've got the big ammonia plant. That's
Australian Future Energy.
$1 billion, which is going to be huge.
How far away is that?
So what stage are we at?
So, well, there's still at environmental impact study, so EIS stage. People in Gladstone have heard those letters a million times. So environmental impact study, or environmental impact statement, depending on who you're talking to. And basically, they've got to go around and prove that this is not going to destroy the environment. It's coal gasification for those watching at home. It's coal gasification. They run the coal through a process, and basically at the end of the product, you can get ammonia, or you can actually further on and get hydrogen out of it.
There you go.
So in the first instance, they're going to produce ammonia, and ironically or conveniently, there's a pipeline that runs straight past the front, heads to Orica, and Orica needs almost ammonia.
Yeah.
Now, sorry to those listening in Newcastle, but it makes more sense to go from the Gladstone State Development Area a few kilometres up the road to Orica than to ship it in all the way from Newcastle. They can find a new job or a new role for their export opportunity for their Newcastle plant, but this is just going to make sense. It's jobs for Gladstone, and it makes our other industry, Orica, even more viable.
So just for people out there, Matt, what sort of time frame are you looking at for an EIS?
It can take 12 plus months. It depends on if there's a supplementary EIS. And people say, "Oh, they've announced it. Why hasn't it happened?" There's so much you've got to go through, and that's fair. Because if it didn't, you have all these. You don't have these environmental approvals in place, then you get cowboys.
Yeah, that's right.
So we don't want that.
And we want it to go through the proper process, but it's also I've said this before. In the real estate industry, people here, they see the heading in the Gladstone Observer, and they go, "Oh my God, we're getting an ammonia plant." But I've always said to people, just make sure you know what stage it's at before you get too excited, because Casper Energy, I believe the company that was building that has deregistered now.
Probably,
Yeah, so that oil refinery's not going in.
Don't say never to those things, but may not be the same investors. Right. It's the same thing with the Guins Ros project. I mean, that's changed investors over the years. So,
Boulder Steel, the steel plant's changed a few times. And
Boulder
has.
I
wouldn't
call it Boulder anymore.
No,
probably more so Gladstone Steel.
original.
And I mean, that'd be the best because it's actually got lots of operational jobs.
Yeah.
Most of these other newer industries have a lot of construction jobs and not so many operational. A solar farm, for example, may only have half a dozen at best.
That's right.
And there's a fair few
in the
construction for the solar. There's 2 solar farms coming, so Rods Bay and Aldo, where the old Aldoga side.
They're the 2 big ones, but there's actually 3. So there's one in Raglan as well. It's very small compared, but there's Rods Bay, which is the Renew Estate, and then there's the Acciona or Aciona, depending on who you're talking to, project in the State Development area, and they're both massive.
Wow.
So they'll have a lot of construction jobs, obviously, for those. And the other big one that I'm very excited about is the beef processing plant, which is pretty much happening, isn't it?
Well, absolutely. So Leo, Neil Ballantyne, Dan Daly have been doing the work on this for probably, since Leo was on council, which was a long time ago now, like a council and a half ago.
Yeah.
And
6 years.
It have to be. And they've been, getting the supply chain in order, which is the biggest and most hardest hurdle, I guess, to get over. Once you get the supply, you can't just go to Asian countries and say, we can supply you 1,000 head of cattle, but then only once. You've got to be able to continually supply that. And they can get cattle from northern New South Wales and far west of Queensland to bring it all in and run through this plant.
So it's 2,500 head a day they're going to process, I've heard, or I've read.
Maybe that's the plan to get to eventually, but they're not going to get there.
And how do they get the cattle here? Is it rail or?
Well, there's options for rail, but because the rail corridor goes right next door. But I think you'll find most of it will be trucked in. And there is issues with timing for rail as well. So if you can run road trains on inland roads, and then you have to decouple at certain spots to get into Gladstone, it'd be ideal if you can have road train access all the way into the GSDA without going past schools and things.
And you spoke at the Futures event on Wednesday morning about that's something you'd like to see, the inland rail from down south.
And they asked me what's the one project you wanted to get over the line. Obviously, I've got a whole bunch, but I picked the most expensive because if you can get that inland rail project from Melbourne through to Toowoomba, it's called Gowrie Junction, Gowrie, Google it. that is where they've decided it's going to go to, and then they want to take it into Brisbane. Now, the residents in Acacia Ridge are absolutely opposed, and good on them. I hope they protest loud.
Bring it up to Gladstone.
Go straight through to Gladstone. You go through, Wando, and you go through the Banana Shy. You pick up future opportunities in there as well, coming through the Gladstone port. It's expensive. It's probably hundreds of millions of dollars. Not probably, it would be. But the economic benefit to the whole nation, not just to Gladstone, makes sense. And you save a few days steaming for the ships that are going to leave Brisbane Port, which is already congested. Why wouldn't you want to give it to a port that's Queensland owned?
Unbelievable.
And
I didn't know.
the deepest on the east coast, or one of the deepest?
It's the best in the southern
It
hemisphere.
is the best in the southern hemisphere.
It's one of the
of course
biggest,
it is.
That's why this
by
town's here.
export by volume.
Oh, absolutely, it is, and it's definitely. So the other thing that was announced recently, which I think is still got another stage of approval to come, is the big aged care facility out at Tannum Sands, which is an 84-bed Flinders Village.
Yeah.
So that's very exciting for the area. And how on the aged care, I haven't had an update for the Station Creek Lifestyle Resort at the Narrabee. Is that still?
Well, there's no update because they haven't lodged an application.
Okay.
They're probably talking with their planning department. Not probably. They're definitely talking with their planning department. So what they're probably in is a like a pre-lodgement stage and just making the discussions with them. Now, I'll wait until I see the application. But when I had the Mann family in, who are very well respected, long generational residents, I said to them, your biggest hurdle is going to be the fact that you're opposite a motorsport precinct. So we have to see how they're going to, because aged care facility, motorsport precinct, that is going to be a hurdle that's going to be hard for them to overcome. But I haven't made my mind up.
The Narrabee dragway.
Like
There you
that.
go.
There you go, like that motorbike.
And that's quiet compared to the drags on the Saturday night. You can hear the drags right into Tenement.
Can you
sometimes.
really?
You can, absolutely. Right across Old Tenement Road. So directly across the road, there's going to be issues that need to be resolved. And we specifically set that side and zone that area motorsport. So it's primarily a motorsport precinct. That's why the landfill's there. Yeah, and so opposite is currently zoned rural. So as much as I want aged care and retirement villages, they've got to be in the right space. And if they can, address the concerns of the precinct that's next door, then so be it. Well, let's have to wait and see what a planning report that comes.
The exciting thing about those things, because I've been here for about 14 years now, and selling real estate for 13, and we've got so much potential here to not just be an industrial city, and tourism in the Tannum Boyne area especially. I think it's so underrated, and we spoke the other day about people moving to Bargara and Harvey Bay to retire, to keep that growing, the older population here. To be able to have facilities like that would be really helpful for us, and obviously increase. Also had I've had Jenny. We had Jenny Maguire on here before talking about the hookup and
Australia's largest family fishing festival.
Yes, and it's on very soon. So great
in May.
TV campaign. It's been brilliant.
I'm number 3 of the top 100 fans apparently.
Oh, is that right?
But the other thing I've been speaking about is having more holiday accommodation. So especially for that weekend, people making their places available because they do struggle with accommodation. It's one of the big things.
Airbnb.
Well, that's what we've been having discussions about it regarding people whose houses are possibly on the market who might let them over that weekend.
Absolutely.
So
there's issues
lot of
with
discussion.
Airbnb too. Don't worry about that.
Yeah, there is.
Yes, there is. Because there's people, there's motels and there's
We've got
bed and
to fill
breakfast
the businesses.
and if you're gonna, there's
So if we
there's
can
some
do
concerns. Not saying we're opposed to them, but
No.
they've got to address some of the concerns of
we
just
have to go back to the old
renting your own
billeting.
out.
Right.
Like when we used to play netball, we used to go to Moranborough and they'd billet us.
Billeting makes sense.
Well, billeting was free. For some places, Airbnb, when you go away for a weekend or every now and again, is not so bad. But when you your
Taking
house
money away
becomes a motel,
Yeah.
and constantly you basically
People come and go.
there's when you apply for a bed and breakfast, it's a commercial enterprise, and you got to go through some. You got to make sure you got the right parking, the right amenities, and there's certain, especially with a motel, you got to make sure that you tick the right boxes. You got the right fire thing. Look what happened in Childers. I know it's backpackers, but that's because the right planning wasn't in place.
Gotcha.
And when you start renting your house out, which might be okay, you think to live in, and you've got people coming there on a daily basis, especially if it changes.
And if something happens, you're exposed.
Yeah, and you
Oh,
just
definitely.
people.
That's a good call.
Anyway,
You'd have to be insured, wouldn't you?
Well,
it's a business.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
And are they? I don't know. It's hard to say.
Yeah.
So there's we support entrepreneurs and new businesses. You got to
They'll do it properly.
level playing field.
And hopefully with some more facilities to keep the elderly population or have somewhere for the elderly population to stay, it will increase the likelihood of some caravan villages and places like we have nowhere like that, those facilities that Harvey Bay and Bargara offer. So
They're coming. coming.
That's really
Flinders is
exciting.
one, and Phillip Street will be the next.
That will be great. So that was my next question,
Okay.
Phillip Street. So
Yes.
that's okay. I'm just working my way down my
Can I
list
just
here.
ask
So
Matt one question too?
yeah,
Just this is a left fielder.
Yes, that's
Talking
right.
Airbnb.
Yeah.
We've got Uber now.
Yeah, we have. There's
We
one Uber
have.
driver
Great
in
question.
Is that a good thing for the town?
Well,
What's your viewpoint on that? Just out of left field.
Well, I think it's a good thing for the town. The taxi
Right.
drivers will be cranky about that.
They
But
will.
what the Queensland government needs to do, and this is not an attack on them, is
Yeah.
people paid a lot of money again for their licenses
licenses,
to be a
I get
taxi
that.
driver, and they're almost redundant.
Yeah, that's
You know,
right.
I think
They're
they're like
worth nothing.
$50,000.
That's right.
So competition is good, provided they meet the same rules and regulations as
Right.
everybody else. And the one thing good about Uber, from a
Yeah.
council point of view, if I get in an Uber and I go from the airport to, say, Parliament House,
Yeah.
it sends an email straight to council to say I went from the
Yeah.
airport to Parliament House. So I don't have to then think, where did I go in that taxi?
Yeah.
it's all,
straight
it's
to
all
the
documented
It's all
straight
very
away.
clear.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it is.
I love
Okay.
that. Taxis can probably do that now too, but
Right.
there's one Uber driver in Gladstone, unless they started and they've
I think
got more.
yeah, there's a few more now.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
Good-
only
good
because
luck
I've
to
seen on
So
Facebook.
do they have to go through council, mate?
No, not at all. It's not a
Okay. council
council approval. It's a
Right.
Queensland government, I guess, approval process, and
Interesting.
so we can't stop them.
No.
I just want to make sure that they're driving safe, their cars are roadworthy, registered.
Yeah.
That's all the things that they have to tick the boxes for.
Yeah.
But
And they don't hurt anyone.
And I think if Uber Eats,
competition.
they're talking about Uber Eats coming, which would actually be good
I
for
don't
the
even really know what that
businesses.
is.
Well,
to be
it's-
honest, I've heard of it.
you actually, it's the same system. You go on your Uber Eats app, same as Uber,
Yeah.
but you actually put in an order for, you know, a Chinese meal or whatever from somewhere, and the Uber person goes, picks it up, and you get charged on your Uber app rather than you having to ring them and place the order.
And that's happening here in Gladstone.
They're bringing it here, yeah. So
You
we've
don't have
had
to
little
leave your
people
home.
with little things in the letterbox.
Get out of your house. Like, you don't have to stay in your house.
Yeah,
all
but it
day.
might actually increase people's business revenue if they can.
Yes,
People
that's
can
a
order who don't
positive.
currently deliver. So
Yeah, fair enough. Oh, yeah.
you know what I mean? Like your Thai places and noodle places and all that who don't currently deliver, more people will order from them if they can get it delivered by Uber Eats.
Now, Roz,
It's only cheap too.
You're going to be upset with me.
No, it's all right. We're nearly through
the.
the Phillip Street precinct,
Okay, what
so
do you
the
want?
community hub precinct. So what's going to be in that
It's
precinct?
a classic example of something that takes a long time.
Wow.
So this was actually identified as the number one project in the social infrastructure strategic plan before LNG started construction.
That's like 10 years ago.
Yeah, a long
I
time
actually
ago.
Googled it, and the first article was like years ago
About
about this.
2012 or
Yeah.
11 or 10, I don't know.
I think it was 2008.
Oh,
the
God.
first.
It was a long
Article,
time. So
yeah.
what happened was it was identified that this was the number one priority for the Gladstone region, along with a long list of other projects, but the number one because of the social impacts that were going to come along. Because we've lived through it before. We've had QAL, we've had Rio Tinto
Smelter.
1 and 2, we've had
Smelter,
BSL 1,
yeah.
2, 3.
That's right.
So we've seen it all. Little booms like Orica and Cement Australia, we lived through them as well. They're pretty little compared to the $1 billion ones.
That's right.
But we said this is going to be massive on like no scale we've ever seen before. There's going to be social impacts between everybody and everybody. Everybody like this, not attacking other levels of government, but LNGs were approved by the state and federal government. Council had no approval process. We were what's called a referral agency, whereas we got to make suggestions and recommendations that could be considered and thrown out, and a lot of them were. Anyway, let's not harp on the past. And we were the ones who lived
You should
through
learn
it.
something new every day talking about them.
I know, that's why I've got
5
the question.
generations my family's been
No,
in. My
he-
granddad
he
can
knows
tell
what
me
he's talking
the meat
about.
works and the process
Yeah,
and what
that's
happened
right.
between the meat works where who used to work
Wow.
and what happened when QAL came to town. And I've lived through the others we just said.
So what's going to be in that? What are they
Yes,
planning
all right.
on having there?
So it's a community hub. So basically the reason it's taken so long is because it's a social services precinct, basically, with a bunch of other things. So things like there'll be the Salvation Army, there'll be a community advisory service, and they offer services like tenancy advice, legal aid, multicultural services, sport and recreation services, those sorts of community development services. They're all in there as well. You'll have a child and family centre as well. There might be immunisation, and there's a room for places like, and I know they're happy where they are, Rosebery and Community Linking Agency.
Yeah.
They're happy where they are, but they may want to move in future stages. And the idea is to provide a really cost-effective place for all social services to be together. Now, the reason it took so long, they're not council core business. So we're providing the land, which we bought off the state government a few years ago because whatever reason they didn't want it, so we bought it. Freehold land. We said we want 50% of that to remain bushland and 50% of it can be developed for the community. So of that 50%, on one side there'll be a retirement village and nursing home aged care facility. On the other side is your social services hub. So every time we lodge a development application with ourselves to build it,
On your own land.
on our own land that we were giving for services that council shouldn't really provide,
That's crazy, isn't it?
That's interesting.
it triggered the upgrade of the Phillip Street single lane there. That's the only section of Phillip Street that's still single lane. So every time we tried to build it, and again, not attacking the state, because the state have been very good to us over the last few years, it triggered the upgrade. Main roads will say, well, you've now got to upgrade Phillip Street to 4 lanes because of the increased traffic.
Expensive. It's hugely expensive.
So we couldn't do it. We said, we can't justify building this community precinct for the community, for services that we're not meant to provide, when
we're going to build a new road.
we've got to build someone else's
really
road. We have a look in Gladstone. Almost every road in the region is local council responsibility, bar a couple. Phillip Street is one. Dawson Highway is another one. Gladstone Banarabee Road is
state
another.
government
State control roads. So
responsibility.
the overwhelming roads in the region are run by council. So one of the ones that needed the biggest upgrade, we weren't spending it when it's not ours.
Right.
Fortunately, along came Ken O'Dowd and gave us $20 million.
Holy crap! Will it cover it?
So
That's going to cover it. Yeah.
that's going to go happy.
And if there's a
So
shortfall,
it's happening now.
Oh,
so if there's a shortfall, our main roads can pick up the tab.
now,
And so they should.
on
So
that,
they should.
and I don't want to pull us up.
I know.
Sorry,
You
guys.
gotta go.
I've got to drive to Brizzy tonight. My
Yes.
son's 21 tonight.
Oh, really?
So we've got
Regan's
some-
18
No
today, and my dad's
way.
birthday tomorrow. It's
No.
my birthday weekend.
Because you said
weekend.
you were going. So there's just a couple of other things. The Rookwood Weir, I'm not sure what's happening with that.
Rookwood?
Rookwood, sorry.
Yeah.
Calliope High School is currently under construction, which
Yep.
is great, and I think we've covered everything else. But the great news today about the I think the Labor government have pledged that they will look at purchasing the Mater
Yes.
Hospital.
So it's the Labor opposition.
Labor opposition.
It's
Okay.
the federal opposition.
Yeah, so
Zach
federal
Beers
opposition announcement
and Catherine King were with
to
Minister
save
Miles
the
from the
private
Queensland
hospital. So we
Yeah,
will
no, that's right.
look at still having.
That
Yeah,
is
so if it
fantastic.
happens, it
the
is.
best outcome would be for the state government to buy that with the federal money, the 15 million, and then to lease it to the Wesley Hospital.
Yeah.
So if you're listening, Wesley Hospital, we'd love to welcome you to Gladstone
Because at least we'd be
They
able
have
to
great
resource
services.
it then. Because that's the biggest
Yeah.
issue in my understanding, is
Yeah.
actually resourcing a private hospital in Gladstone.
Well, Matt was saying at the Futures thing the other day that it's driving a lot of people out of town to have their babies,
Absolutely.
and he signs the certificate to say born in Gladstone to give
And
the
they're
birth
reducing.
certificate, and he
Yeah.
said they're seeing less and less
That's
come
a bit
in, and he
hard.
doesn't like it that people
I've got
aren't
that
being
on
born
mine.
in.
Oh,
Yeah.
I know. I've got
They're not
that
getting
on mine.
born
You would
in.
have that on your birth
Well,
certificate too.
you actually get a real birth certificate. This is an
Right.
optional one that actually is
Right.
just for people born in the Gladstone region. So it's born in Gladstone. It comes from the office of the mayor, and we've only started the last 3 years. But
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
But
Yeah,
I've
it
noticed
is. I
the
reckon
numbers
it's very
are
cool.
halved
Really
because
dropped,
people
because
are.
everyone has to
Because
go
they're
out of
going
town and have
to
their
Rocky or
babies.
busy.
I
Yeah.
don't want that.
And we've got a high percentage of private health cover people here in town.
Anyway,
Thank
thanks
you
for having
so
me.
much, Matt. Sorry,
You're
it was so
outstanding,
quick.
man.
Thank
That is
you.
so
It was
cool.
really great. Just a quick update on what some of the tiny things that are
Surrounded
happening around the
by, hey,
place.
look at this, Tammy, surrounded by rough heads.
Hi.
Only one rough head and a good looking bloke over here. Right,
But thank you
Thanks, Tammy.
for
We
everything.
got the
We'll see you
waterfall
next
going. What more do you
Friday.
want?
And Anton's got to go. He's got to go to Brisbane.
Brisbane.
So we will catch up next Friday. Have a great weekend.
See you all, team.
Bye.